we are going to study sexual reproduction in flowering plants in detail. Now, flowering plants are angiospermic plants, which are highly advanced plants, and they are most predominant vegetation on the earth. And how does sexual reproduction take place in angiosperm? This we are going to study in detail. Now, this is the first video of sexual reproduction in flowering plant. In this video, we will study about structure of a flower. Flower is the reproductive organ of the plant. Now, we can see here some of the angiospermic plant, and these are flowers. Now, if we see the structure of a flower, flower is basically born on a shoot. Now, this is the shoot or stem, and in the axil of a bracket, this flower will arise, and the stalk of the flower, this is called as pedicel. Sometime on pedicel is also born. On pedicel are born bracket-like structure. We can see here. This is the bracket-like structure. This is bracket, this is bracteole, and this is the outermost whorl of the flower called as sepal, and this is petal or corolla. So flower is modification of reproductive shoot, that is from the stem, and we have seen here this is leaf-like structure called as bracket, in the axil of which flower will arise, and this terminal part, this part is called as receptacle. And the stalk we have discussed, this is called as pedicel, and sometime a smaller leaf-like structure may be present over here. This is called as bracteole. If bracket is present, we call the flower is bracteate. If bracteole is present, we will call the flower is bracteolate. These are some terms which are used to explain the flower. So, a flower is modification of the shoot. It may have bracket, it may have bracteole. Stalk is called as pedicel, and this broadened part, this is called as receptacle. This will broaden up, and then this is also called as thalamus, on which these flower organs they are born: sepals, petals, stamens, and carpels. Now we can see here, now this part is outermost whorl is sepals, then these are petals, and this part is female part, gynoecium, and this part is stamen part, male part. So this is when we cut vertical section of the flower, we can see the structure like this. Now we'll discuss in detail about parts of the flower. Now we can see here, this is the outermost whorl, this is called as sepal. Singular is sepal, plural is sepals, and collectively this is called as calyx. Similarly, next whorl is of petals. So petal is singular, petals is plural, and collectively this is called as corolla. Now if we see the male reproductive part, now this is filament and this is anther. This is called as stamen, and collectively many stamens are there, like we can see here many stamens are there. Then they are called as Androscium. Now in the center is ovary. Now this is style and this is stigma. So this ovary, style, and stigma, this also forms a female reproductive part of the flower. This is called as gynoecium. When both the sexes are present, that is male as well as female, so flower is considered as bisexual flower. Now we'll again study in detail all its parts. Now we can see here, this is the flower, and this part is calyx, and this is the outermost whorl. We can see this is green in color. Now here sepals, they can carry out photosynthesis, they can produce nutrients for the flower, and they can also protect the inner floral whorls in the bud condition. So this collectively, this part is called as calyx. We can see here, this is calyx. Next part is corolla, but we are discussing here only calyx part. Now calyx, they are sometimes, they may be not green in color, but mostly they are green in color. Now they can be fused, they can be free. Sepals is the outermost whorl of the flowers. Sepal is green in color, and this may attract insects sometimes when this becomes colored, and this protects the floral organ in the bud condition. Now this is all about calyx or sepals. The next word is of corolla, as we have seen here. This part is corolla. Petals. Now here petals, they are fused. So this is gamopetalous condition. So corolla is word used for petals. Now petal is second most whorl of the floral leaves, and this is present inner to the calyx. Now individual one part is called as petal. Collectively petals. And usually petals make the flower attractive in color. This may be scarlet red, this may be pink, this may be purplish, and this helps in attraction of the insects for the pollination process. Pollination is transfer of the pollen grains from stamens to the female part. We can see here, this is the flower of Kachnar, Bauhinia variegata, and these are its petals, beautiful petals. Here you can see variegation is also there on the petals. So this is about corolla. This makes the flower attractive. Sometimes there are not sepals, not petals, but some other thing is there which doesn't show any distinction between sepal and petal, and then this part is called as tepal. This is called as tepal, and collectively this is called as perianth. Usually this is found in members of family Asparagaceae. Asparagaceae family has tepals. So we can see here in the flower tepals. Now this collectively is called as perianth. Individually this is called as tepal. So this is in some of the families, not in all the families. Now next, third most whorl of the flower is called as Androscium. This is also the male reproductive part. Right. Now this is made up of filament, and on upper part are present, like this is anther, and this part is filament. This part is anther, filament, and this will dehisce open. This will shrink and dehisce open to liberate the pollen grains. So when pollen grains, they are liberated from the anther, this is called as dehiscence of the anther for liberation of the pollen grain. Now pollen grain, they form the male reproductive part of the flower. So this is the male reproductive part of the flower, which is having filament and anther produces lot of pollen grains, and pollen grains, they will germinate to form the male gametophyte. We can see here stamens. These are different kind of stamens, and this is like we have made in the diagram. This is filament and this part is anther, and they will liberate the pollen grains, and pollen grains, they germinate to form the male gametophyte. We'll discuss in the other video in detail. Now next is the female part, and this is also called as gynoecium. This is pistil as well as gynoecium, and this is the last, or you can say innermost whorl of the flower. Now this is made up of basically ovary, style and stigma. This part is ovary, this is style, and this is stigma. Now ovary part, I'll make you explain. Now this is ovary. Now this will have, this part is ovary, this is style, and this is stigma. Here on placenta like structures are present ovules, and ovules, they have female gametophyte. So this is the female reproductive part of the flower, which is also called as pistil, or this is also called as gynoecium, and ovule is having the female gametophyte. So this is the female reproductive part, which is made up of ovary, style and stigma. Now pollen grain, which are liberated from the male reproductive part, we can see here in this flower also. Now this part is having, this part is style and this part is stigma. Ovary is inside and these are stamens. Now stamens will liberate the pollen grains, and pollen grains, they will fall on the stigma like this. And this liberation of the pollen grains from here, and they are transferred to the stigma, this is also called as pollination. Now these pollen grains, they will germinate and they will form the pollen tube. We can see here. Now these are the pollen grains. They will germinate and they will form the pollen tube. Now this is the pollen tube. And inside are present, these are male gametes. Now they will reach toward this ovule. Then male and female gamete, they will fuse to form zygote. Now then ovule will ripen to form seed. So ultimately this ovule will ripen to form seed and ovary will ripen to form the fruit part. So this is about structure of a flower. There are 4 whorls. Outermost whorl is sepals. Inner to sepals is petals. Inner to petal is stamens. Then there is the gynoecium part. So these are the 4 whorls of the flowers: sepals, petals, stamens and gynoecium. Now we'll discuss about its function. So flower is the reproductive part of a plant. A shoot has been modified to carry out the function of reproduction. Stamens, originally they were called as microsporophylls, now they are called as stamens. Similarly, carpels or female part, ovary style and stigma, they were called as megasporophylls, now they are called as carpels. Now stamens are male reproductive part, carpels they are the female reproductive part. So they help in sexual reproduction, they help in fertilization, formation of the seed, formation of the fruit. And as we discussed, stigma, pollen grains they germinate, they will form pollen tube, and then ultimately formation of male gamete, and ovule will have the female gamete and fertilization will take place. This formation of the male gametophyte, formation of female gametophyte, what is the structure of stamen in detail, we'll discuss in the next video. Thank you for watching my video. If you like my video, please like, share and subscribe.